Ever since the youngest days of the video game industry, video game publishers have been looking for ways to protect their products from piracy. It began with passwords, which could only be found in the game's manual. Then publishers moved on to CD keys before eventually settling on software to prevent pirating games. And then they added DENUVO, an uncrackable bit of anti-piracy software that gets cracked all the damn time.
Before the weekend, news broke that Total War Warhammer 2 had been cracked in, reportedly, a record 10 hours. That means pirates didn't even have to wait half a day before they could download it free of charge. That's despite the fact the game was protected by the latest version of DENUVO anti-tamper software. It's the fastest any game protected by DENUVO has ever been cracked. For those unfamiliar with it, DENUVO is a bit of software which game publishers use to prevent their games from being pirated. But Warhammer 2 was cracked on day one, meaning DENUVO utterly failed in its purpose to protect the game during the initial launch window, at the very least. But it doesn't stop there. FIFA 18 was cracked on its release day as well, just one day after Total War. So that's two major titles, both cracked less than 24 hours after they came out, one day apart.
DENUVO Software Solutions, the company behind the technology, famously claimed their software was uncrackable. And for a long time it was. But last year, piracy groups announced they had figured out how to circumvent DENUVO's protections, and almost all AAA games were eventually cracked, starting in earnest with Rise of the Tomb Raider. DENUVO fought back, however, and every time their software was cracked, they released a newer version which, in theory, made games harder to pirate. Then Resident Evil 7 came along. Resident Evil 7 was cracked in a record 5 days after its release in January 2017. When that happened, it kind of signaled that crackers had effectively figured out how... Sorry, it's crackers. It's like Christmas crackers, isn't it? Like, it reminds me of being around a Christmas table, pulling the cracker and...
I thought you meant white guys.
Kind of no, I'm totally PC here, dude. I don't know what you're on about. Want to remain advertiser friendly. Crackers had effectively figured out how DENUVO worked on a fundamental level. So each subsequent AAA game using DENUVO has just become quicker and far easier to crack, which kind of makes a mockery of DENUVO's purpose and reputation. The record was broken yet again when the PC version of Tekken 7 was cracked in just 3 days back in June. But publishers were still insistent about implementing DENUVO in their games despite the cracking time getting smaller and the fact companies need to pay hefty license fees to use it.
When DENUVO started getting cracked in faster and faster times, the argument came forward that it's mainly there to protect the launch window. The first days and weeks that a game is available on sale is of course when most copies will get sold, and that's the bit that companies say they want to protect. So publishers were still insistent about implementing DENUVO because by their logic it was still worth the investment for that precious launch window. But with Total War Warhammer 2 cracked in as little as 10 hours after launch, with the same exact thing happening to FIFA 18 just a day later, publishers must be asking themselves, is DENUVO even worth it anymore?
And this is the kind of question they've got to ask themselves. How much money did they save by implementing DENUVO versus how much money does it cost to implement it? When you're saving only 10 hours worth of possible purchases, surely that doesn't make up for the amount of money you're paying for it in the first place.
It's totally worthless if it's getting cracked on day one. I mean, it's just gone, isn't it? What's the point of it? It's absolutely 0 point. The last kind of official thing that I was able to find on the internet anyway was DENUVO saying that there's no deals in place with publishers if the system does get cracked, so they don't actually offer refunds. That might have changed since they said that, but as far as we know, publishers aren't actually getting any money back if the game is cracked day one like it is. To protect the company and the respect of the company, they must have some kind of arrangement in place by now, because this is bad. If you're charging people a lot of money, and according to like a Reddit post that we saw, it's about 100,000 euros for one instance if it's a AAA game. That's a lot of money. Is it worth 100,000? I don't think it is.
Also, you got to factor in the cost on your reputation as well, because a lot of gamers hate the fact that DENUVO sometimes affects the gameplay and the way that the game performs. So you've got to factor that cost in as well as a cost of implementing DENUVO, and it just seems like a less and less inviting proposition, doesn't it?
Yeah, exactly. The fact that it was a double whammy is incredibly damaging to them. I mean, if it's one that, you know, you can say it's an anomaly, most of our games are protected, but that's not the way it is. It's a clear graph, it's a clear kind of sliding quality of protection that people are getting now. They're surviving less and less time before it gets cracked. It's 10 months, then it's a week, then it's 5 days, then it's 2 days, then it's 10 hours. That isn't a good look for them at all. Companies don't like it in their games like developers. I mean, they take it out at the earliest opportunity. Doom dumped it, for example, Mass Effect Andromeda. IO Interactive got rid of it in Hitman, I believe, when they separated from Square Enix, so they didn't have the money to pay for it. They didn't want it in the game. Get it out of there. And it's because of what you were saying there. It's like the potential problems and the general reputation of the thing. Why would you have that in your game if you can help it?
But hold your horses, not all games get cracked, Mike. Not all games get cracked.
No, yeah, very right.
Of all the most recent AAA games, we've got a list here. Let's have a look at which ones were cracked and which ones weren't. Okay, these ones were cracked. Sonic Mania, Life is Strange Before the Storm, Pro Evo 18, Dishonored Deathly Outsider, World Rally 7, Marvel vs. Capcom Infinite, Total War Warhammer 2, FIFA 18, and there's one to add to that list which wasn't cracked, so there might be hope for DENUVO yet. That was Monopoly Plus. Monopoly effing Plus. I mean, they've got that going for them.
It's almost like someone wasn't trying to crack that game. That's a lot of games though. That reads like a list of all games that came out in the last month. I think this is a big deal. This is a very big deal, I think, for DENUVO as a company and what it is as a name in the industry. I don't know if it's got long left, to be honest.
Yeah, if they were a public traded company, then they would be dumping stock.
Yeah, shares would be going through the floor, wouldn't they? Totally. I mean, you can say, oh, we were protecting the launch window, but 10 hours is not a launch window. You know, people.
It's a download window, is that?
Exactly,
I mean, it was cracked before Jake had it even installed on his system.
And let me just remind you as well of the report that we touched on, I think it was in the Sunday Roundup last week, where we mentioned the European Union's kind of investigation into video game piracy, which they kind of buried because the results of it indicated that piracy isn't really bad for entertainment, movies, TV, games, and that it could actually be good, that it could actually increase sales. There's some evidence that that might be the case, and the European Union didn't like the results of that study. So all this effort and all this money and all this hassle to get DENUVO into games, is it even worth it? What's the point of doing it if there's an actual chance that piracy might even be helping?
And the deep irony is that DENUVO themselves used a bit of software called VM Protect when they were developing the DENUVO platform that they didn't have a license for themselves, which is essentially pirating anyway. So they built this anti-piracy software by using pirated software. That's laughable, isn't it? Surely.
Let's end the video there, right? So what do you think of all this? Are you laughing in pirate already? Let us know down in the comments. Remember to like the video if you enjoyed it and subscribe if you want to see more stuff like this every single day. Should be another video right there which you can watch right now, and a link to Patreon if you want to support the channel. See you next time.